Thank you. You see why we have him writing our Thinking Economically, a great communicator and also a fine thinker. And that's what we aim for in all our research, and that is to have academically sound, high quality, unbiased, good analysis and good research. Before I introduce the governor, you have these little cards on your table. So if you have questions, you can write them down on these little pieces of paper, and we'll go around and collect them, and Brooke will come up here later on and ask your questions. Well, it is a special pleasure to introduce our governor. You all know him. It's our 47th governor of the state of Texas, and I think the relevant parts of his resume to me are that he was in the Air Force, and he's an Aggie. And of course has had a distinguished career here. I think the most important thing about our governor is the leadership he's shown, and I think that you remember back when he first took office, back in 2003, that Texas had a $10 billion deficit going into the session. And I remember his inaugural speech, which was the best one I had ever heard. And he said, think of the $10 billion not as a great millstone around our neck. I don't know if those were the exact words, but think of it as an opportunity to do something that's right for the state of Texas, and went forward and showed great leadership in indeed having a budget without having to raise taxes, not without a lot of help from y'all. And I do note with some pleasure that we have Arlene Wolgamuth here with TPPF, and my student, Arthur Joe Nixon, that Arlene helped with reorganizing and streamlining, especially our health and human services area, and Joe Nixon, my student, who carried a lot of the weight in tort reform, and of course we have Talmadge Heflin, et cetera, who've helped us all along. So we are very proud, but it was the leadership of our Governor Perry that has been so important to the direction that our state has taken over the past, now 5 years. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our own Governor Perry.
Hold that. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Wendy, thank you very much for your kind remarks. One of the few things in my life that I wish that I'd had the opportunity to do was to be a student of yours or Dr. Graham's, Dr. Phil Graham, but they had standards in those days at Texas A&M. And Art, they had certain level of grade point average that was required to get in there. So, these are two great Americans. When you look back at the history of our country, and you look at how Phil and Wendy Graham have impacted our country, it will be a great and a powerful story of two people with extraordinary backgrounds of how they got to this particular place and time, and we're blessed that they chose Texas. And Wendy, to you and Phil, I guess outside of my wife, I'm not sure there's anybody in this room that I've had a longer relationship with than you and Phil when I think about as the years gone by. And speaking of my wife, 42 years ago today, Ernie, we had our first date. So 42 years ago. She was a very hard sell, Art. We dated for 16 years before I got her to say I do. So, the Texas legislature wasn't any big step. And I want to say thanks to every one of you that are here, and both Art and Wendy and Brooke have done a great job of saying thanks to. I'm kind of like that turtle on top of the fence post. I understand I didn't get here by myself. And Texas didn't get here by just a governor having a good idea or the speaker or the lieutenant governor. It has been a team. And each of you have been great and wonderful partners, and it's been a great trip. Art, thank you for coming and saying the words that you've said and exposing the rest of the country, if you will, to what we've known as pretty much a gut instinct of what we've done, Joe, and the impact that we made, but. Let me tell you, for an animal science major from Texas A&M, it's a big deal to follow you. I told him, I said, this is kind of like following Tiger Woods and going to talk about chipping and putting. And to get to follow Art Laffer is just it's a huge honor for me. And but you have been speaking truth to power for a long time. And as Americans, we're thankful that there are individuals like you who love your country enough to continue to fight the fight. As we were talking, we may get killed on the top or headed towards the top of the mountain, but not a finer way to die. Your direct conversations with leaders of this country brought around a very unique and a bona fide revolution in America. And your ideas were transformational then, and if they'll listen to you in California, they can be transformational today. Your free market economic principles are taking root in some places. They're certainly doing it right here in the state of Texas, and they're creating prosperity, they're creating wealth, creating a better future for men and women who a decade ago might not have thought they had a chance to enjoy the better life, if you will. I'm really fired up about the details of this plan, or the details of the report, I should say. And look, I'm biased. I don't make any bones about it. If it had been a bad report, we probably wouldn't have had you here for lunch, Art. Just be honest about it.